What is up guys, Ghost here. Battlefield Portal was announced a few days ago, and it's looking like an absolutely fantastic addition to the Battlefield series. The impression I've gotten from most people is similar to my own. On the whole, I think we're all pretty impressed. It's going to be very interesting to see what Ripple Effect Studios add to it with the live service. I think it's safe to say that we can expect to see more maps, weapons and vehicles from Battlefield 1942, BF3 and Bad Company 2, but perhaps even entire new Battlefield games joining the mix, like 2142? Maybe some Walker action? Who knows? So recently I came across an article published of an interview with the senior design director of Ripple Effect Studios, Justin Weber. Sorry if I butchered your surname, Justin. And there's a lot of interesting answers in here, such as why exactly they chose to remaster assets from BF3, Bad Company 2 and 1942 specifically, how they're going to balance those experiences against one another, the possibility of a map editor, and whether or not Battlefield Portal is such a big experience all of its own that it could potentially be a threat to Battlefield 2042. And do you know what else could be a threat to you playing Battlefield 2042? Not using a VPN. This video is sponsored by Atlas VPN. Atlas VPN is a tool that encrypts your data and hides your virtual location. And honestly, in 2021, if you aren't running a VPN, you probably should be. But my favourite thing is removing the geo-block that streaming websites like Netflix have in place that stop you from accessing tons of content depending on where you live. So here the Shawshank Redemption isn't available on my Netflix. Luckily, Atlas VPN is super simple to set up and use. You just click the country you want to connect to. In this case, I'm going to choose Japan, refresh your Netflix, and boom. Now I can watch the Shawshank Redemption or a handful of Japanese animes that are only available from specific locations. This also works with plenty of other streaming platforms such as Disney+, Amazon Prime, Hulu, and BBC iPlayer. Atlas VPN is supported on any device, and currently they're running a huge discount for their 3-year deal for just $1.39 per month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. The deal won't last long, so make sure to check it out by clicking the link in the video description. So the first question here is, how did Ripple Effect arrive at those specific 3 games? Justin said it was a fairly grueling process, comparing it to going to Disneyland. You plan on a family trip and you've got 10 kids, but you can only bring 3. We knew Battlefield 2042 was a shoo-in right off the bat because that's where it all began, he says. So this one obviously makes sense. It's the first Battlefield game, it's the oldest, and therefore the graphics are the worst. Definitely the best map candidates to be remastered. But after that, it got harder, he continues. We went through and said, well, we don't want to pick anything that was just released over the past little while that people are probably still actively playing. So basically, that cancels out Battlefield 5, Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 4. And so when we started narrowing that field, there were probably only 4 or 5 true contenders. And then we just kind of went through not only how we felt about them and what we heard from the community, but also looking at the data of what were the most popular experiences played by fans, and that ultimately formed the decision-making process. Now obviously these 3 Battlefield games are from 3 different eras, with different weaponry, different gunplay mechanics, game engines and all the rest of it. So how exactly are they going to balance the experience? So this is what Justin had to say. So what we've done is to try to give players the ability to choose either historical or modernized settings for things like weapons, where if you want the weapon to behave and do the vanilla damage with all the recoil and everything that they had in those other games, you can do that. Or if you want it to be a little bit more competitive, where you want players to use those classic weapons, but maybe you want them to be used against Battlefield 2042 weapons, well, then you can set it to be more modern, in which case they are balanced to be competitive. Now, since the weapons are going to work that way, I wonder if the same will hold true for the vehicles. I mean, even if the damage models are similar for, let's say, tank shells, at the end of the day, a Battlefield 2042 jet could have heat-seeking missiles, whereas a Spitfire from Battlefield 1942 will not. That doesn't really seem that fair either, but of course if you want to create a proper balanced experience, you could just make both factions play within the same game. We don't yet know whether you'll be able to mix and match weaponry. Can you play as a 1942 soldier in a Spitfire but equip the heat-seeking missiles from 2042 jets, we don't yet know, but that sounds a little far-fetched and immersion-breaking even for Battlefield Portal. Another big topic is the control system for the vehicles. Battlefield 3's jet used a special speed control system that carried on over to Battlefield 4. We don't yet know what sort of system will be in place in 2042, but my guess is that that system will be pasted across all aircraft, regardless of the game. Now, as many of you will have heard, Battlefield Portal has this logic editor, which allows players with the know-how to script custom rules and tweak the different variables in ways not possible with the standard options. Battlefield Portal does not, however, currently have a spatial editor, which is what would allow players to edit existing maps and control things like spawn logic. There's also no way for players to create maps from scratch, like we've seen people do with Venice Unleashed, the mod for Battlefield 3. However, Ripple Effect knows that these tools would give builders even more power, and Justin hinted that they could make their way onto Portal eventually, just not at launch. Now, I have seen some people voice some worries about the game as well. Some have speculated that because Battlefield Portal is such a big addition to the whole package that is Battlefield 2042, that it could rightly stand on its own 2 feet as an entirely separate game. So the worry here, I think, is that you're going to have Battlefield 2042's all-out warfare modes like Conquest and Breakthrough, and then Battlefield Portal, not to mention the currently unannounced Hazard Zone, all tugging you in different directions and competing for your time. However, Justin and his team choose to look at it a different way. This is what he had to say on the topic. The way I like to look at it is, players are going to almost flow through the game at various points in their interest. Every player is different, but my expectation would be that most players would come in, they'll play Battlefield 2042 to start, get a feel for all of the new maps, the dynamic weapon swapping system and things like that, and then, after they've kind of gotten used to that, I could see them starting to transition. Maybe if they're more interested in high stakes gameplay, some players will transition to Hazard Zone. We are emotional creatures. Sometimes people just want to take a break from the high stress, high tension experiences, and that's where Portal can kind of pick them up and come in and say, well, we don't take ourselves too seriously. This is the place where you can go to have a little more fun, to have something a little more unexpected. I think that if we plan it properly, we can kind of push players to different parts of the game at different times, rather than everything trying to compete for players' attention all the time. So this sounds very much like the live service of Battlefield 2042 will perhaps switch around and have different phases. Maybe you will have a season with a bunch of unlocks for the all-out warfare part of the game, and then the following season will bring with it a bunch of new maps and weapons for Battlefield Portal. And you'll sort of naturally just shift over to play and experience that, and I can only imagine the same thing will be true for Hazard Zone. Overall, it's sounding like a very meaty experience, a lot of content to get your teeth into. Personally, I reckon that this Battlefield game will be around for a good few years to come. Who knows, perhaps DICE are going to stop releasing games every couple of years and will instead knuckle down on this one. After all, it's on a brand new engine and made for brand new consoles, so now seems like a great time to do so. How would you guys feel about that though? Would you rather see another new Battlefield game in a couple of years like normal, or would you prefer for DICE to keep building up one great experience and just stick to that for a longer time? Now, if you guys are interested in reading the full article, I will link it down below because I just cherry picked a few questions from it and there's plenty more there, so go give that a peruse if that's your thing. Thank you as always for watching the video, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more Battlefield, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.